Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday webinar series, Chiropractic Economics Webinar for Doctors of Chiropractic. I'm Daniel Sosnowski, Editor-in-Chief of Chiropractic Economics. Today's webinar, PEMF Therapy, a New Movement for DCs, is sponsored by Pulsed Energy. And, as always, our program is being recorded and will be archived at Chiropractic Economics website, chiroeco.com/webinar, for 1 year. Our expert is on board here today to speak with you, and when his presentation is complete, we will follow with a question and answer period. You can submit questions throughout the presentation by clicking on the appropriate icon on the right side of your screen. We'll do our very best to get to all of your questions, but if we run out of time, we'll forward the remaining questions to our expert and notify you via email when the answers are posted on our website, chiroeco.com/webinar. Our presenter today is Josh Silver, President and CEO of Pulsed Energy Technologies, who is here to help you understand the exciting new modality of pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. Josh, thank you for taking the time to participate in our webinar and for sharing your expertise with PEMF technology and helping our audience understand how they can use PEMF to effectively treat their patients. And before we get started, Josh, give us a brief background on yourself and your work with PEMF.
Sure, and I just want to say thank you all so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here and very excited to share all the information about this old new technology. The best way to understand who I am and where I sort of fit into this category of technology is, believe it or not, I'm the old man in the technology. This technology itself has been around for 100 years, but it's relatively new to North America. Through the grace of God, through time and happenstance, I happened to be in the right place at the right time when this was developed in the year 2000 in terms of the modalities that we use today. And so I've been in and around the technology since the beginning of the year 2000. So I've seen it firsthand, sort of it develop, it unfold, and it work. And that is essentially my background, is starting working with a different version of the technology and then developing my own product.
Well, very good. So, Josh, please go ahead and begin your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. For everybody who's out there, Dan said something that was really important. He said he used one word that I wanted to focus on to sort of kick off this presentation, and he used the word new. And new is a great word because new can actually be old. Time goes by and things happen in our world, and 100 years or more go by, and generations forget things that we have done. We didn't record them, we didn't properly or accurately date them, so we use the word new, but sometimes we're talking about something that's old, and that directly applies to what we're going to be talking about today, which is high-powered PEMF therapy. This is literally the oldest form of electrical therapy in North America. We have been using this for, about 150 years now. Before lasers, before ultrasound, before STEM, before TENS, before we used anything that plugged into the wall in terms of healing, thousands of years ago, we can trace back the use of pulsed electromagnetic field therapy to the Egyptians and using stones and magnetic stones. And in more recent history, we can date it back to Tesla and some others that we're going to talk about. So in our time together, I'm going to take the opportunity to basically speak to everybody here about 4 key areas of PEMF therapy. Okay, we're going to talk about the history, how this technology has developed and evolved over the last 150 years, where my company and others play a role in today's work. We're going to also get into the nitty-gritty. We're going to talk about the science. We are going to hear the who, what, where, when, and why of how it works, and you're going to leave this webinar with a very good understanding, or at least an elevator explanation of what PEMF therapy is and sort of how it works on people and the mechanism of action. And that will also then tie us into how to properly use the technology for a variety of conditions. Like I said earlier, I'm the old man in the technology. I've been doing this for a long time, so I'm familiar with a lot of the unknowns that is out there. And this is a big unknown, is there's many people that don't know how we properly apply the PEMF therapy to get the maximum results. There is a way to use it correctly that gets the best results, and we're going to go over that today. And then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about successfully marketing, and I'm using quotes in the word marketing, this therapy for your practice. Part of my background comes from business and marketing, and I will tell you that the way that we sort of put the word out about this technology breaks all the rules of classic and standard advertising or marketing 101. So what we're going to do is teach the practitioners out there some basic tips, some tricks, some hints, some sort of jumping off points, so that it doesn't just go from really cool modality sitting in the corner of the office. It goes into integrated therapy that's successfully helping patients and also producing a revenue. So we're going to do our best to cover all of this in a short period of time. I'm going to be quick and precise on all of our information. The beauty of this is that it's being recorded, so anything that we've missed, we can go back, we can ask questions. Myself and my staff are pretty much available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to receive phone calls, text messages, smoke signals from the mountain, however you want to communicate with us, so we'll be happy to get you all the answers we can. So the jumping off point, if you will, the big question is what is PEMF therapy? If you Google PEMF therapy, you are going to get a huge array of answers when you click it. It's not going to be what is water, it's H2O. That's not going to be PEMF therapy. You're going to get pages and pages and pages of detailed science, of detailed explanations of what it is, what it doesn't do, how it works, and all of that. Okay, what I've done here is I'm going to make it very simple, very precise, so we all walk away with a better understanding. Okay, first thing I'm going to do to explain what PEMF therapy is I'm going to give you an example in life so we understand. What PEMF therapy is at its core is a battery charger for your cells. Our cells are like little batteries, and when we have injury, illness, or disease, the energy is reduced. The waves of magnetic field pass into the cell and restore the charge, just like when you plug in rechargeable batteries. Okay, and that's our simple explanation that we explain to people. Okay, the energy only goes to where it's deficient, so that's why when you use the therapy, in some cases you feel it, in some cases you don't. Okay? In a more scientific but simple explanation to really get at the core of what PEMF therapy is, we've sort of utilized this simple answer which combines old science and new science. What PEMF therapy is induction of electricity into the cells to stimulate healing. Okay? And I'm going to just break that down a little bit for you so we understand in greater detail when we talk about induction of electricity. That's the key word. Okay? In the turn of the previous century, physicists by the name of Michael Faraday came up with two concepts that we now use or have utilized in physics ever since then that have sort of bore his namesake. These apply to PEMF therapy. The first thing we talk about is Faraday's law of magnetic induction. And simply put, when you put electricity into a circle, it makes a corresponding electromagnetic field. Okay, the middle of the screen there, you can see this incredibly cool picture of Nikola Tesla holding a light bulb that's lit up, but he's not touching anything. To Tesla's right or left, looking at the screen, we see a little boy standing under power lines, and there's light bulbs plugged into the earth, but they're not plugged in. So how are they powered? Okay, I'm sure many of us have spent 5 or 10 minutes in the last year on Facebook and seen those incredibly cool new things they're selling for our cell phones. The wireless charger. It's a little plate that you put your phone on, and you don't even have to ever plug it in. You just put it on there, pick up your phone 30 minutes later, and boom, it's charged. Same exact concept, guys. Just a long time has passed. This is electrical induction. We are creating power at a distance, and based on how much current is going through the wire, based on a few other factors, that dictates how much power is created, how long it lasts, and how far that it travels. Okay, so recapping or rehashing back to PEMF therapy, what we're doing is we're taking a basic applicator, and we were able to create the energy into somebody's body from a distance. With our technology, we can use it 6 inches away, a foot away, in some cases 2 to 3 feet away. Okay, we're able to create the energy or create microcurrents inside of the body that way. We're going to talk a little bit later about the benefits of that, but the first benefit is that it allows us to use a whole heck of a lot more power in a safe way. Okay? And again, just simply talking about PEMF therapy and what it is we're putting energy in the cells at a distance, which allows us to use a lot more power. Okay? With this concept, this understanding of electromagnetic induction, led to sort of the first person that kicked off the technology, that took it to the forefront. Many people know his name for a wide variety of things, but for us, the person that really created this technology is Nikola Tesla. Tesla is responsible for a whole host of inventions that we are currently using right now to be able to have this webinar and all of us to be connected and speaking and listening. Okay, but one of the few things that he was marginally successful in his life was the Tesla electrotherapeutic company. Okay, he was the father of lightning, but he is also the father of many other things. In 1912, Tesla started the Tesla electrotherapeutic company, and he created portable medical devices that he sold for a period of 5 years, and it was one of the few marginally successful businesses that Tesla had. Okay, and the reason we're talking about it is if you start to take a look at a few of the pictures on the screen and listen to what I'm pointing out, what's old is new and what's new is old. This is a picture of Mark Twain participating in an experiment in Tesla's laboratory using his pulse magnetic therapy device. He is able to create an electrical arc between his hands where Twain is. And if you look kitty corner over here, there's a picture of me 2 years ago literally doing the same thing. I'm creating an electrical arc at a distance. And again, we're talking about this because we need to understand where it came from, and that there's a long period of use that we know clinically it's safe, that it's successful, but also from an effectiveness standpoint and where the technology is going. So Tesla was famous for a whole host of many things. He created the pulse energy device. He is the inventor of television. He's the inventor of radio, internet, alternating current, Tesla coil, fluorescent lights, radar, solar power. Some say he made an earthquake machine. Some people say he even made a death ray machine. The point being is we were probably incorrect when we were kids and we were teasing somebody for messing up the bell curve and giving us all lower grades by calling them an Einstein. We probably should have called him a Tesla, because Tesla was a genius in so many fields. He sort of superseded anything that we've ever seen in our time. And again, with Tesla, this man was a recluse. He was not in it for the glory. He was notorious for giving away his profits, giving away his patents, things like that. And that's what he did it up until his death. When they did Tesla's biography, his first biography after he died, it's 3 or 4 years after it came out, a quote was attributed to him that sort of nails down or hits home for me and a lot of us in the PEMF world. In that Tesla believed that if you flooded the body with millions of tiny microcurrents and electrical impulses, you could go for days without needing food, without needing water, without needing sleep. He felt more energized, he felt more alert, more focused. All of his physical ailments went away. And that is essentially what seems to happen when you use the high-powered PEMF therapy today. 150, 140 years later, it's the same thing. Tesla was not the only man that was involved with this technology. He was sort of the precursor. He kicked off the advent and the use of the technology. A couple other folks that were involved with this is George Lakhovsky and Royal Raymond Rife. George Lakhovsky created something called the MWO, or the multi-wave oscillator, and he was able to prove that the cell resonates. Okay, and what that means in lay terms is that it communicates. The cell will resonate to a pulse, to a certain set of frequencies on the electromagnetic spectrum. It'll ping or communicate back. Lakhovsky was able to see this and understand this once he created the multi-wave oscillator here, and he utilized that in the healing world. Around the same time, 30s and 40s, a gentleman out of San Diego, California, by the name of Royal Raymond Rife, created the Rife device. And these are still in use today. I'm quite certain if you go into Google and type in Rife device, you could find a whole bunch of places all over the United States and more that make these frequency generators designed for healing. Now, obviously, for the benefit of our dialogue today, we're only talking about Rife himself and his technology. But he spent quite a bit of time, effort, money in his life researching this technology with cancer. And at one point, he was so successful that even the San Diego Union Tribune, if you take a look here at the bottom, in 1938, announced that he was able to cure cancer in his laboratory. Pretty big deal if you think about that. Major U.S. newspaper announcing that somebody in the laboratory is curing cancer with a electrical device. It's a big deal back then. Okay, the short story of Rife, and believe me, we could talk all day just about Rife, is that he went from hero to zero overnight. Once he started to see fantastic clinical results with cancer, there was a lot of complaints from groups, entities, bodies that stood to not do so well with him accelerating the excessive with him limiting the excessive growth of cancer, and they shut him down. Rife went from hero to zero basically overnight, and his technology went away, at least to a degree. But the concepts still existed. And the reason we have these here is we show these pictures. This picture here is from 1935. This is from 1936. These are H.G. Fisher devices out of Chicago that would sell home pulsed magnetic therapy devices specifically for you to treat yourself at home for physical ailments. This gentleman here, it's a fantastic picture. He is using a similar applicator that we make and use for our device today, a rope applicator, where we create many different turns on the person's body. It's a fantastic way to get energy and also accelerate healing, but the biggest point here is that 100 years ago, they were doing the same thing. Okay? The technology took a little bit of a turn as we got into the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Once Rife and other folks started investigating it for terminal illnesses, it went away from the home use pain type of thing and it went more into an investigative research method. And the two main folks that sort of took to the next step was a French physicist named Antoine Priori in the 50s, and then Giovanni Dotto in the 60s and 70s, who was an Italian World War II fighter pilot that immigrated to the United States. In short, Antoine Priori created a Priori device, which was essentially a room. And what he believed is that if you put cancer patients into this room, turned the switch on, they would come out and they would eventually be cancer-free. He received the first government funding to study PEMF therapy with cancer from the French government, and he got great results. When you Google his papers, 1953, 1954, his papers were lauded as groundbreaking, as earth-changing. 1957, the French government shut him down. They got too many complaints from the French Medical Association of patients ceasing their standard treatment of care and wanting to do the Priori method. So the government shut him down. This led to Giovanni Dotto. And this is an excellent picture. If you take a look, it looks very much like Beam Me Up Scotty from Star Wars. The user would stand on the plate, and they would bring the sort of rings down on top of their head and treat down, and they'd say, "Beam me up, Scotty," and they'd pulse them on their way. Dotto, where he got involved with the technology, is in 1972, after 6 years of research, he was awarded the very first patents in the United States for PEMF therapy in the application of cancer. He was actually awarded patents for this particular technology just for the treatment of cancer because the results spoke for themselves. Once he shifted from a clinician to, if you will, a businessman in creating a product that was going to go mainstream, the end of 1974, for the first time in history, the United States government overturned his patents. They decided to re-review all of his data that was previously approved and allowed for his patents to be accepted. They re-reviewed the data and decided that the data was incorrect, that it was either inaccurate, there wasn't enough control. They basically decided that all of his data was so poor that they could overturn his patents. So 2 years after awarding him the patents from 6 years worth of research, they decided they were going to shut him down, which they did. The sort of funny thing, if you will, is that this is the point where people know that the technology started to work. This is the kicking off point in the 70s and 80s where we started to use it further and further. Okay, many people out there have asked me this question or asked this question: is this like a Bob Beck zapper? Is this like one of those Beck zappers? No, but it's a cousin. In the 70s is really when this technology started to splinter, be developed and utilized for other areas. Bob Beck created zappers that you could put, you can see here with the Velcro wristband, you can strap or attach to the body, and you treat certain areas of the body with low-lying electromagnetic fields. Okay, we also have a really cool product that they've sold for, now 15, 20 years in the Air Mall, Sky Mall catalogs. It's a wristwatch that gets rid of jet lag. But if you actually just read the mechanism of action, it is a very, very low-end PEMF therapy device. We have diapulse or shortwave diathermy that came out of this technology in the 70s, and what that is it uses an elongated or longer electromagnetic pulse to create heat inside of the body with the goal to, let's say, get rid of things like inflammation. The drawback is you can only use it on a spot for 1 to 2 minutes at a time, otherwise you can get a serious burn. Okay, and then down in the middle is the connection from the old technology to today, and then also to myself. The first version of the technology that we see today when we put it into Google and we say, I want to look at a PEMF therapy device, was a device from Greece called the PEMF machine, invented by a Greek physicist by the name of Panos Pappas. And what he figured out is that you could take all of these different mechanisms of actions, the different ways that they've created PEMF field, but to make it most effective, it needs to be in a focused applicator. And so he created what we call the loop. There's a whole bunch of terms for it now. Originally it was the loop. We call it the loop, the wand, the probe, the applicator, the accessory, the appliance. There's more than one way to sort of give the explanation or the name of something, but his contribution was the direct application. The drawback of this technology, this PEMF machine, was several-fold. It was 285 pounds. It was almost 6 figures coming from Europe. It was about a 6-month lead time. And the inventor was like a classic inventor and saw such great results that he couldn't help but tell everybody and not do the clinical research behind it. How I got involved with this technology, sort of where my background is I got involved in the year 2000. I had mentioned earlier, right place, right time. That's exactly what happened. I finished school. I went to Los Angeles to become a sportscaster. That was my background. I wanted to broadcast college football. And unfortunately, it didn't work out for me because I had a dental issue, and I literally walked around with a hole in my mouth for a year. I found this company, and the gentleman by the name of Chuck Wallach, he's the gentleman that brought it over from Europe and is chiefly responsible for PEMF getting its main start here in North America. He basically made me use the machine. And in 2 days, it completely closed up a dry socket that I had from a dental issue. I had spent a year going back to the dentist when they removed my wisdom teeth. Nothing worked. And in 2 days, this big funky box closed my mouth. I couldn't believe it. I was sold. I said to them, hey, have you ever taken this to pro sports teams? And they basically said, no. We are starting clinical trials in the United States. We're looking to cure all the main diseases of the world. If you think the sports teams would be interested, go ahead and call them up. So that's how circumstances evolved from me not being a broadcaster in sports to being involved in sports in another angle. I knew, being an athlete myself, that this was going to be fantastic for athletes. I got on the phone, started making phone calls. One thing led to the other, and I was able to get the machine. As you can see, the pictures here, we got it to the San Francisco 49ers. We got it to the Houston Astros. Shaquille O'Neal's ex-wife and father-in-law walked into our clinic one day, and nobody knew who they were. I had a nice conversation with them. They invited me back to their home, and since 2004, I've been Shaq's, if you will, personal PEMF operator, where he has flown me around to use the technology in certain key situations before games, during playoff series. And the only benefit there is if there was any doubt in my mind that this technology was effective, that it worked, there was no reason for Big Shaq to be flying little Josh around the United States and other places for 4 or 5 years when he could have just used something else. That's when I knew this technology was incredible. In 2004, the gentleman that I was involved with, Chuck Wallach, he had a sudden heart attack and he passed away. And again, the short version is that myself and another gentleman, we re-engineered the technology, made a whole host of different improvements, made it lighter, more portable, more powerful, all that, and came out with our machine. And so that's how you get to 1905 to 2017. So I want to talk now about how the technology works a little bit more scientifically, a little bit more in the depth of the details so people understand what the machine is really doing. There's a lot of unknown or incorrect information out there. This is what the known is, and this is what I want to talk about. Essentially, as we were talking about, the body is made up of millions of tiny electrical currents and impulses interacting throughout the cells. The waves from our PEMF therapy device pass through the cells at a very powerful, very fast rate. The byproduct of this is a net energy gain each time. Okay, U.S. Army study done in 1979 proved this. It proved 2 things: that with each pulse, there was a little bit more energy left into the cell, and the other thing that was happening is it was helping convert sodium to potassium on a biological or a subcellular level. Okay, and the byproduct of that we're going to talk about in a second. But they were able to clinically, without a shadow of doubt, prove that using this machine restores the spin of the electron around the atoms of the cell. And the direct byproduct of that is production of energy at the cellular level, things like ATP. We are able to measure at the cellular level voltage, and we can see that this happens. So at its core level, we are putting energy in the cell. And when the cell is full of energy, it says, wait a minute, I'm not post-operative knee scar. I'm not a partially torn rotator cuff. I am a healthy cell. It reads the little coding as DNA that it's already programmed in the cell and replicates a healthier version. Okay, and so the reason that it works on such a wide variety of conditions, when you read all the clinical reports, all of these things out there about it, the reason is because it's working on a cellular level. It's not working on the pathology of what is wrong with the person. It is only working at the core or the heart of the problem. The other thing that the technology does that is unique is that it excites all of the frequencies on the electromagnetic spectrum all at once. It is like a bolt of lightning. This is unique only to our technology, to our machines or any of the other spark gap versions. The digital technologies can't achieve this. It's just not possible. Okay, and the best way to think about it is this. All the other technologies, all the other therapies out there in the world, wherever you're Dr. Fred that's in New England and Dr. Michael that's in Texas, you can think of laser and you can think of ultrasound right now. And both of those have a set of frequencies on the electromagnetic spectrum. They fit in. There's a spot for them. And that is the technology that you're using now. Another way to think about that is somebody walking up to the piano and hitting their one note. They hit their A, they hit their C, or they hit their E, right? They make a nice sound. That is not our machine. That is not high-powered PEMF. High-powered PEMF literally recreates lightning. It creates the signature of lightning. And the byproduct is about 0.25 hertz to 250,000 megahertz, about 2.5 gigahertz. We've seen this in a laboratory on a spectrum analyzer, so we've been able to see it and see what it looks like. And another way to understand it is, going back to the piano reference, is this is like my 4.5-year-old son walking into the room and seeing a piano and putting his hand on all of the keys and hitting all of the keys all at once simultaneously, exciting all of the notes. Relating that back to the technology, what that does is it hits all of the frequencies on the electromagnetic spectrum. It passes the frequencies to the body, and it resonates. Okay, it resonates to the pulse. What that translates like for you there, Fred, that's in, where is it, Fred, that's in Idaho? What that translates for you is you feel the machine only where you have pain. You don't feel it the same way if you don't have injury, and it is specifically because of the electromagnetic spectrum. Because we are only hitting the frequencies that are injured, okay? We could put it on Fred. I'm sorry to pick on you. We're using an example. We can use Fred's right shoulder and bring it up to his shoulder, and he's going to look at me, and the applicator's a foot away, and he's going to go, wow, Josh, that's from my car accident from 10 years ago. How did you know? And then we'll take that applicator, we'll go closer, and we'll move it down to his stomach, and he'll say, hey, what did you do? I don't feel it anymore. We didn't turn the machine down. We just moved the applicator away from that area that was resonating with the pulse. You can feel this machine unlike anything that you've ever felt. And I can tell you that doing this almost 17 years, it's still very hard for me to explain to somebody what it feels like when you use the machine. Lots of unknowns about PEMF. I only talk about the knowns. These are the known scientific indications of PEMF therapy, meaning there are 510K approvals existing, CE mark approvals worldwide, for successful treatment with these particular conditions. We know without a shadow of a doubt scientifically that PEMF therapy helps in certain cases of bipolar and depression. It was FDA cleared for a TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation. In 2011, there was technology cleared for brain cancer. It's a PEMF therapy helmet that you put on, and for certain types of gliomas, you walk around and you wear it all day long. Healing for post-surgical recovery, for wound healing. It's fantastic, especially diabetic ulcers. That was another indication it's received. Pain of any origin, multiple indications for pain. Works on tendage, cartilage, soft tissue injuries. Nerve regeneration, chronic and acute ailments, muscle stim, healing of fractures. That's a bone stimulator device from the late 70s. Again, another PEMF technology. And a treatment for edema or swelling. Typically, when people read this, they go, oh, wow, that is fantastic. It's voodoo and snake oil because I have 10 different conditions, all unrelated to each other. And the first thing we tell people is, yeah, but you got to try it. But the second thing we do is we talk again about the science. It is going directly on a cellular or subcellular level, and that is why it works on so many things. If the body has the ability to heal itself, it will with this machine. If it doesn't, it can't. A better thing that I tell people is what doesn't the technology work on? And one of the things that we know it doesn't do too much for are genetic disorders. We don't see too many good results with genetic disorders because we're resetting the cell. We're creating homeostasis in the cell. And if there's a corrupted DNA, all we're doing is replicating the same DNA. Okay? I'm going to talk a little bit about the attributes of pulsed energy. Atomic excitement, the energy seems to stimulate the spin of the electron to store energy that lasts for 3 days. That's why people don't use the machine every single day. They use it every other day. The energy is very strong. It's not necessary in order to do that. The molecules tend to align slightly with each magnetic pulse. This makes the molecules easier to combine, especially when excited. Okay, we are creating organization out of chaos inside of the body. Another significant thing we see is that pH becomes far more alkaline of the water inside of you. Okay, we can't shift blood pH. It's set at about 7.2, but we can shift the water pH inside of you, and again, we're mostly water. We tell our practitioners to do a great test of buying the litmus paper that you can buy from Petco or one of those pet stores, and they can do the tongue test. We put it on the tongue, we give them a 20-minute session on the machine, and then 5 minutes later we do another tongue test, and you will see that they have shifted maybe up to 1 full point. Okay, what's this showing us? It's showing us 2 basic things. Increase of oxygen immediately. Okay, oxygen increase is directly related to a higher pH. Okay, and it's also, the other thing is a reduction of sodium. Okay, sodium is the best friend of inflammation. They love each other. They go hand in hand, and they like to sort of work together. If we're able to help the body do this and put the body in a state of higher pH, chronic inflammation goes away because it's not able to be there. There's too much oxygen. Okay, there's not enough sodium. And again, this is all with consistent sessions. You will see this. Surface tension can shift on the order of 16-fold. We make the water wetter. Okay, and that is a fantastic thing to see. People that have any sort of muscle deficiencies, the water gets to the muscle more faster and stays there longer. The other thing that we see is that the lymphs will become far more efficient. They'll thin and flow. We put the loop under somebody's armpits and somebody's face that has a stuffy nose, and in 10 minutes they go, "Oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing in the world," where their nose is running to the floor. It's a great, great thing to see. Red blood cells will separate. They probably will restore their charge and repel each other in minutes, allowing more surface area to transport oxygen. You can see the fantastic befores and afters here. Basically, we want each cell to have its own ability to get oxygen, nutrients, water. We don't want them stacked up like silver dollar pancakes. And we see this consistently with pulse magnetic therapy. Vascular system relaxes. Within minutes of completing a session, this can happen. We found this out by mistake when we were doing clinical trials years ago. We had to do before and after blood pressure, and by default, we were finding that we were regulating blood pressure, and we realized it wasn't us or the machine. It was tricking the vascular system to relax. We seem to get a great result with migraines as well, and with migraines, we treat the inner thigh instead of the head specifically for this. It's like adding another lane of on the freeway when you're full of traffic. Another thing that we see, systemic response to the sessions. Many report as though the body's functions have been fine-tuned or turbocharged, but many times the problems get better, and it's not the targeted problem. I had this last week. I had a phone call from a doc that told me he worked on a patient's low back for 6 sessions in 2 weeks. It didn't get any better. And I said, he got no results. I said, well, he told me his trick knee hasn't been felt this good in 15 years or something like that, but his back didn't feel better. Makes sense. Even though we want the back to get better first, it may be that the body is prioritizing healing, and the knee needs to heal first and then the back. We don't have control over that. What we want to do is just find out sort of the detailed information of the person using the machine, because I'm willing to bet that something else is going good that you didn't know. Most controversial one we see is the cell can change some of the sodium back to potassium. This was found in a U.S. Army study done in 1979, and it helps with things like pain reduction. Short example is we will see an athlete that will come in with, let's say, 4 centimeters fluid on their knee. We'll give them a 15-minute session, and they will come back the next day, and the swelling is 100% gone, and they go, wait a minute, what did you do? Did you sneak in my room and use needles while I was asleep? It shouldn't drain this fast. And part of it is because we're empowering the body to accelerate the healing, and the other part of it is, again, because we're converting sodium to potassium. The electromagnetic pulse is causing the person to generate tiny little microcurrents. This is how we see the healing in fractures. If you can visualize in your head a break in the bone and there's a gap between the 2 points, when we bring that coil applicator close, we are creating a little micro arc or a tiny, tiny little bolt of lightning going from the 2 fracture sites. Funny enough, when the patient tells us, gosh, hey, I don't feel the machine jumping on my arm anymore, we can typically compare with the MRI and find that the healing has occurred, that the bone is calloused and there's a callus formation or something over there. There's no more fracture. And typically they don't feel the machine at that point anymore, and that's when we know, okay, we were creating the microcurrent and now we're not, and we've created healing. Last thing is the speed and discharge of the pulse. This is unlike anything you've ever seen. You can treat on the top of the head. You can treat an hour on spots. The reason being is because of the speed of the pulse. It is just too darn fast to create energy that is negative. This picture in front of you sort of speaks 1,000 words, is when we were kids, we put our hand on top of the candle and figured out pretty quick, ow, ooh, that's hot, can't do that. But we got to a certain point where if we moved our hand at a certain speed in and out of the flame, we could do it forever. No heat, no burn, but look, Ma, I'm playing with the fire. And in a similar fashion, that's what we're doing with our machine. It's a high-powered pulse, but the pulse is so fast, there's no time to create heat or injury or damage inside of the tissue, only enough time to leave a little bit of trail of energy. The last thing that I want to talk about in terms of the benefit is the most important thing. If there's one thing that you will leave this webinar with today, it is this benefit of electroporosis or electroporation with this technology. During and after a session, about 2 to 3 hours, your cell membranes open up and become wide open. Little cell gates are open, so water and nutrients can flow into the cell, dissolve toxins, and flow out. Higher oxygen uptake, any sort of nutrition that's in the body gets absorbed faster and better. And then after that 2 to 3 hours, it closes its door back up and goes right back to what it's doing. And I know I'm only briefly touching on this particular thing, but the benefit is so tremendous. We are getting inside of the cell from a distance. Okay, the big thing out there is, well, there's not really much that can cross the blood-brain barrier. This crosses every barrier. We have pulsed through 2 lead dental suits and created an inductive field through that. So the byproduct of that is knowing electroporation, any sort of adjunct therapy that the practitioner is doing, you get a 30 to 40% better result just by using this machine and getting electroporation. Basic coil and protocols. Okay, there's 1,000,001 different ways in which to use the technology, and I'm here to tell you that using this 15 years hands-on people, there isn't a wrong way. There's no wrong way to use the technology where it is not going to work. What there is the best way to get the absolute best results and the fastest results. And as you can see Shaq with his thumbs up there, we start every single person is position 1 on the chest. Heart, lungs, thymus. We start at the coil at a distance and we bring the applicator in until the person feels it on their chest. And it's based on comfort. If you have it right flush on your chest the way that Shaq or Igor does, that might be too strong. You could back it off 1/2 an inch. But again, we do the heart, lungs, and thymus. Okay, and we're going to talk about why in a second. The second position is the crown of the head. We want to take the applicator and start like a halo, and we slowly bring it down near our crown until we feel it. Some people feel it in the eyes or the nose. Me personally, I feel it in my teeth where I've had dental work. Other people where they have sinus headaches. Okay, and we want it to be comfortable for the user, and they'll use it for about 2 to 3 minutes. And then the third position is the mid-thoracic. Above the tailbone, below the shoulder blades, the kidney, the backside of the liver, the adrenals, okay? And we do these positions 1, 2, 3 in this order for everything under the sun. Does not matter what the person, quote unquote, has when they walk in the door. This is sort of called the Wallach protocol of PEMF, and the reason being is this. Your broken toe doesn't heal your toe. It is the systems of the body. And if all is said, what is said about PEMF therapy is true, then we need to be energizing the systems of the body that do the work. Otherwise, we're sort of cutting our nose off to spite our face. We're doing ourselves a disservice. So for this particular example of a protocol, we're just going to talk about somebody's shoulder. We have them come in and we do position 1, 2, and 3 as we've just displayed. And then we box the area of need. When I say box, I don't mean a boxing around your ears. I literally mean as many angles of approach, 3 or 4 walls as possible. We have found over the years that 10 minutes on one spot is not as effective as 9 minutes at 3-minute intervals of different angles. And we're going to visually see this here in a second for the shoulder. We would do the front of the shoulder here for about 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, we would come to the back side of the shoulder, 2 to 3 minutes. And then we put their arm through the loop, 2 to 3 minutes. Please notice that I did not mention any name of any condition, any pathology. We were only talking about body parts. With our technology, we energize via the body part, not the pathology, not the name of the issue. That's how the technology works, and it works most effectively. So again, for this shoulder injury, 10 minutes in one spot would be less effective than 3 minutes on each alternating spot. We take that and we utilize that throughout. Okay, what I have just given you is a sort of you keep that in your back pocket. That is 90% of the protocols that we have trained, that we have used over the years, is 1, 2, 3, and box the area of need. Other things we talk about when we do we do a formal trainer for practitioners when they buy the machine, and we go case-by-case basis. There are other protocols. This is the elevator protocol, as I call it. I'm only trapped in the elevator for a minute, and I've got to tell you how to run your clinic. You do this, you're going to be loving it. I know we're getting a little short on time here, so I'm going to, as quick as possible, give you the elevator information on how we introduce the technology to the patient. So many doctors that I've worked with over the years have tried the machine with us at a trade show and said, Josh, this machine is awesome. You fixed my shoulder at the trade show, but now I brought it to my clinic and I don't know what to do. Okay, there's a technique that we use to take this from a really cool modality in the corner of the office to, I'm using this so much I need to get a second and a third one, Josh, and this happens a lot. Okay, we don't want you to buy advertising space. We don't want you to advertise on the radio or television. Not initially. You already have all of the people that you need that come into your front door. This is what we want you to do. This is such a unique technology. This is so different in the way that it works. We simply want you to give it away for free for each patient. You as their practitioner will know, okay, I've got Mary who has a back problem coming in today. I've got Fred with a shoulder. I've got Ty with a hip. Okay, we simply, following these steps, we bring them back and say, hey Mary, hey Fred, guess what? I've got a new technology in the office. I think you're a great candidate for it. Come on back for a complimentary session. I want to put it on your shoulder. Okay, patients and most people will typically enjoy the word complimentary session or free, so we bring them back there and we take the applicator and we put it on their one bad spot for 5 minutes. Again, Mary's shoulder, we're going to take that applicator, we're going to turn the machine on, bring it slowly to their shoulder till she feels it, and she goes, wow, that's my bad spot, doc, I can't believe it. We're going to smile at him, and we're going to wait 5 minutes. Okay? 5 minutes later, we're going to turn off the machine and say, Mary, how's your shoulder? How do you feel? I'm not big on guarantees, but here's what I guarantee you. I guarantee you in 5 minutes, Mary is going to feel somewhere between 100% to 0.1% better. She is going to feel something. She may only have 10% range of motion increase. She may have 50. She's going to feel something. And we're able to demonstrate, let's see your shoulder, Mary, and they're going to check out their shoulder and go, wow, it's there already. It's 50% better. What did you do? And from that point, we are no longer selling them a service. We were able to then explain to them, Mary, this is great. We saw 50% range of motion return in your shoulder after the first 5-minute session. I think we should do a 5-pack for you. We offer them 5-pack and 10-pack. Let's start with a 5-pack and see how you do. Does that sound good? Yeah, that sounds great. When can we start, doc? Or we start with a 10-pack. Typically, we tell the practitioner that you want to give them 6 to 12 sessions in 1 month for any issue. And then we can reassess from as the practitioner goes. But I have seen more success using this particular method with the stick figures is just giving away that freebie, that little sample so people can try and experience, because this is such a results-based technology. With that, I'm going to open it up to any sort of questions and things that people may have, because I imagine there's maybe 1 or 2 things people would like to know out there.
All right. Well, thank you, Josh. This has been extremely informative, and we have been collecting some questions from the audience. And I would like to get to those right now. We do have a couple that are somewhat related. So I'm going to ask you this one question, and it relates to basically what people feel. And the actual question I asked was, why would a patient get dizzy and lightheaded after a PEMF therapy session? So would a patient get dizzy and lightheaded? And if so or if not, what kind of things do people actually feel when they're getting the treatment?
Sure, great question. I'm going to answer both parts. I have seen this myself over the years less than 10 times. I have seen it. Typically, we experience somebody will be dizzy with one of a couple factors. My grandmother is a good example. My grandmother is 97 and she weighs less than 100 pounds. She has chronic low blood pressure, so when I give her a session, I give her a short session, 5 to 10 minutes. Anything longer drops her blood pressure and she feels a little bit woozy. Another reason is that if they are have not eaten that day, and especially if they have not eaten and they're on medication, they feel it more. So we have a patient that comes in, they're late for their appointment, they haven't had breakfast, they take their morning meds, they come sit down, have a 30-minute PEMF treatment, they stand up and they go, whoa, and they feel like they're going to tip over. That happens. Also related to blood sugar. There's a really good result with diabetics. Okay, and the reason I'm tying into this is somebody that may have moderately low blood sugar, they may have a long session and their blood sugar drops a little bit. In our user's manual, in our training, we make sure we have the practitioner have on hand some saltine crackers at all times. In the off chance that this happens, we have them have a little salt, which brings their blood pressure up and then it balances. Again, I've seen this less than 10 times since 2000, but I'm very familiar with it. Answer your question about what it feels like. This is the McDonald's secret sauce question, and it is the hardest thing to answer because it is unique to everybody. I recently hired a writer to write a story, to go and have his first session on the machine and then write a story about what it was like because it's such a unique experience. We'll be able to provide that link. But for somebody listening for the first time that doesn't have the benefit, here's the best way to understand it. It's almost like being a passenger in time travel of your body, and you're remembering all the things that have happened throughout your life. And what I mean by that is you take that applicator and the practitioner starts moving all over your body, you're going to go, I don't feel anything, I don't feel anything. Oh, that's my low back. That's when I fell out of the treehouse when I was 7 years old messing around with my brother. And then they'll move it to another spot. Oh, wait, that's my rotator cuff. Oh, yeah, that's right. I hurt my arm senior year of baseball. And it tells you the story of what's going on. And it's almost like a dull ache replicating the pain, but not as painful. When you get a massage and you go, ooh, yeah, that's the spot right there. It's another way to understand it.
Okay, very good. We just have a new question came in. Is there a price range for these types of machines, and how much do providers typically charge for a given session?
Yep, great question. Most practitioners charge on a scale in this way. They will charge $50 for one 20-minute session as an a la carte basis, and then they will provide it as packages. A 5-pack of sessions, they'll charge $45 a session, or a 10-pack, they'll charge $40 a session, so $400 for a 10-pack. Typically, that is not a problem for the patient to pay for once they've experienced and felt it. And we have sort of engineered it to coincide with around what the lease payments are for practitioners. You can finance the machine. You don't have to buy them outright. We make 3 models. We make a high-end clinical one that retails for $29,000. We make a clinical one that's more portable, looks like an airplane suitcase. That's $23,000. And then we came out with a home unit this last year that's designed either for home or to be rented out by the practitioner for $9,500.
All right, very good. Here's a good question, too. Are there any contraindications for this therapy? I know there's a couple myself.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a great question. Pacemakers or other electrical implants are a no-no. Okay, we have firsthand tested this at a cardiologist's office, not with patients, with actual pacemakers and other electrical implants. It will override the signal of a pacemaker from the applicator end at about 3 feet. Same with things like a deep brain stimulator. Having said that, anything else that's implanted in the body, metal, screws, rods, hardware, absolutely fine, not a problem. It is only electrical-based implants. The other contraindications that we have are under the age of 18 without written parental consent and pregnancy for political reasons.
Okay. And Are there any, does the practitioner have to operate this device, or can somebody else do it?
Great question. Practitioner does not have to operate the device. We prefer that the practitioner does not, because part of the technology is that it's a hands-free modality. The goal is that we want to be able to put something in office where the practitioner doesn't have to take up his or her time, that it can be run by itself. So what you can do is either one or two things. Either you bring on a technician that will train. It doesn't have to be a registered chiropractic assistant. It just has to be a technician that we can train and then certify. Or what happens over time is you may even want to be the person as a practitioner. Well, I want to operate my machine. And over time, Mary comes in and she's used the machine 3 times and she takes the loop and says, hey, I know how to do it. And she starts treating herself. And a lot of the time, the patients end up doing self-administration or self-treatment because it's so easy to use.
All right, well, very good. That mainly brings us to the conclusion of our webinar, but I understand that you may have a special offer for those attending today's webinar. I
do, thanks. As we discussed, these are not cheap machines. These are expensive. There's a lot of technology and engineering that goes behind it. So anytime that we have an opportunity to give somebody a break or a discount, we jump at that chance. So for any of the registered attendees that have attended this webinar, if they place an order for any of the products within 14 days of this webinar, we're going to give them a 5% discount.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, this has been extremely informative. We've been writing on this topic at Chiropractic Economics, and we were impressed by the fact that a lot of professional sports teams are using this technology. Athletes are using it, and you know, those are places where people don't waste their time if they're not getting results. So, in addition to the research, the science, the clinical record that this technology has, I think this is something that anybody with interest should definitely take a good look at. And at this time, we would like to thank our sponsor, Pulsed Energy and Josh Silver, for today's webinar. Everyone, thank you for attending. Remember, this webinar, including our speaker's PowerPoint presentation, has been recorded. If we did not get to your question during the webinar, the questions will be posed to our expert, and the answers posted shortly at chiroeco.com webinar. We'll alert you when the webinar is available. Thank you again, everybody, for attending, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Have a wonderful day.